Are you looking to play Havoc Demon Hunter in patch 10.2 of Dragonflight? Well, as we all know, they received a rework coming into this patch and lots of things are changing. So today's video, we are going to go over what's changed and my thoughts on it and just give you guys an idea of if you want to play this very fun spec or not. Before we do though, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. The channel's growing very fast now. I appreciate all of you. Now, let's get on to this video. So the first and probably biggest change is going to come to Havoc Demon Hunter's talent tree. So here I am on live now in 10.1. Let's take a look at the talent tree. You can see here, it's a little bit outdated. We have a lot of 2-point nodes here, a lot of choice nodes that don't make a lot of sense. There's not a lot of pathing in the tree. We have utility locked away. And inside the class tree, it's fine, but it's kind of outdated. There's lots of things that just aren't really a choice. We don't get a lot of access to utility. There's a lot of just strange looking nodes. So take a look at this tree here, memorize it, and then quickly throw it out of your head, because if we jump over to 10.2, we see the talent tree looks incredibly different. So let's just break down the talent tree first. I think this really is one of the bigger deals here on the tree. So let's start with the class tree first. I can see here, very, very different. The upper part has been broken open completely. There's a lot more pathing and choices there. You can see Sigil of Misery is moved up here, as well as Chaos Nova. Both of these are now in the top gate here, which means that you have a lot of access to them, allowing you to just kind of take them whenever you want. Other things that are moved up here are the Eldrachi Design Parry node, which Havoc never takes ever now, which means you can actually come down into some of the sigil stuff down here. Hour of Pain and Felbit have been broken up. We have a new talent giving us 2 charges of glaive, which we already had, but a 10-yard increased range, making it a 40-yard ability, which is a ranged ability. Other than that, the class tree is most the same, apart from some nice shuffling around. But one big thing here is that Rush of Chaos was moved down here. Now, it still gives you 60 seconds off Metamorphosis, but one big impact of this is that Metamorphosis baseline now is 3 minutes, which means that Havoc Demon Hunter and I guess Vengeance both now have a 2-minute Metamorphosis. Now, this is a pretty big deal, pretty major, so that's a pretty fun thing to play around with. Darkness was nerfed slightly in raid from 20 to 15%, but now is 30% in dungeons, which is pretty good. And then finally, we have Elysian Decree down here in the tree. It was broken out from the Spec tree and put down here. Right now, Havoc doesn't really end up taking it. However, Vengeance will end up playing it in a few different circumstances. You're probably wondering what happened to Fodder while we're down here. Fodder's gone. Fodder is dead as a doornail. There is no more Fodder the Flame in World of Warcraft unless you go back to like Shadowlands or something. But it is no longer part of the tree, which means that the RNG with it is now gone. Overall, much improved class tree, a lot more pathing options, a lot of niche options on the side here to pick up, a lot of options down here for PvP or just different things you can pick up, a lot of tank things Havoc doesn't have to take. Lots of good options here. Very, very happy with the class tree. Moving on to the spec tree, we see it's pretty different as well. I think one of the biggest changes, just right off the bat, is going to be that we have utility and defensive nodes here, which means we have to pass through them to get further in the tree. Beforehand, we were one of the only specs in the game where we had to end up taking our utility at a loss of DPS. Now, because of his pathing, we're forced to go down here, which I think personally is a great thing. So on this left node here, not a ton has changed. It's still the Netherwalk and Desperate Instincts node. Netherwalk is our 3-minute immunity. It's not a great immunity, but it is an immunity nonetheless. It feels great to have it again. Lots of players were very upset they wouldn't be able to have this back in the day. Desperate Instincts kind of sucks because it automatically triggers your blur when you don't need it to, but hey, it's also here. On the right side of the tree, on this node, we actually see a very interesting new talent. So against Mortal Dance, which is our AoE Mortal Strike effect, we have something called Deflecting Dance. Now, Deflecting Dance is a spiritual successor to Blade Dance Dodge, which is an old mechanic where while you were in the Blade Dance animation, you had 100% dodge chance. Now, whenever you're in the Blade Dance animation, you have an absorb shield on you for 15% of your maximum health. So we go over to a dummy here, and you guys watch my buffs in the top right corner, and I push Blade Dance. You can see I have a shield here for roughly 92,000 damage at my 452 eye level. So this is a pretty sizable shield. You'll have it show up roughly every 6 to 8 seconds. Here it is again, and it ends up restoring a lot of HP. I think it's like 4 to 5% of your HPS over a fight, which is a great deal. Also, this allows you to hold Blade Dance for a few seconds if a big hit is coming up that you otherwise wouldn't be able to live. 15% really is not anything to scoff at. So those are great additions there. We see some new stuff moving to the top part of the tree as well. We have Demon Hide, which is a magic damage increase. It's only 4%. The tooltip here is wrong because it was changed. And then physical damage taken is being reduced by 5% as well. Now, physical damage beforehand was a big issue for Havoc Demon Hunter, really spiky to it. 5% is not the major thing in the world, but it does help out. On the left side, we see something like Critical Chaos, which has been moved up here and nerfed a bit, but still there, not very good. We see a new talent, Dash of Chaos. Dash of Chaos is a very fun talent. I'll just swap over here and grab it to show you guys. It basically allows you to Fel Rush back to where you came from without using a charge whenever you push it. So if I go here, I push Fel Rush, and then push it to return back to where I was. Now the issue here is it's very hard to take this talent because of the DPS loss that comes with it, but if you're willing to sacrifice some DPS for that quality of life, then it is very fun to play around and can be very rewarding for you, or just to mess around with in open world contact. Moving down to the rest of the tree, we notice a general theme of our talents being mostly the same, but a reduction in 2-point nodes. Beforehand, we had a lot of 2-point nodes. This entire row would have been 2 points, this row was 2 points, and this row was 2 points. We've seen that reduced now, where only these 2 nodes here are 2 points, and these 3 are 2 points. This gives us a lot more points in the tree, allowing us to put points where we couldn't have before. We also have this new talent here, Scars of Suffering, which gives us 4% versatility and an 8% threat reduction. Again, this is really good. 4% verse is just 4% damage, 2% damage reduction. Havoc, not really stacking a lot of verse, so this will most of the time get a lot of value. And the threat generation is really good as well. 8% is not enough to where if you are stupid and end up just pulling stuff, you're not gonna keep threat from a tank kind of deal, but there should be a lot less moments in your day-to-day gameplay or Mythic Plus where you find that you're actually pulling threat from the boss or from the tank or whatever. Really good changes there. Rest of the stuff down here has been mostly the same. A lot of it was nerfed a bit because of the 1-point talent change. Isolated Prey is a big deal as it changed because Isolated Prey before was basically the reason why we were Fel Rushing on cooldown. With this change to always critically striking with Immolation Aura, we no longer have to Fel Rush as much. Another change here was Serrated Glaive, which now just works off of Throw Glaive and Chaos Strike. Pretty minor, but a big change. Most of the changes in the spec tree, I would say, come in the bottom part of the tree. Starting off right away, you guys can notice there are now 4 choice nodes here, which were not there before. A lot of the 2 choices here that were mostly against each other have been combined down into choice nodes. A lot of them do make sense. Beforehand, one of Havoc's biggest issues is that it had 19 points in the bottom of the tree, and a lot of them were just kind of build defining. Now we have a lot less, down to 16, which is the average, and these choice nodes really do help with that. We see that Relentless Onslaught, which is a single target Chaos Strike talent, is now against Soul Scar, which is the old Soul Rend, which used to be 2 points. We see that Inner Demon, which is a nice little AoE cleave, has been reduced to 5 targets and is now against Restless Hunter, which is stronger for single target and maybe a larger AoE count now that this has been capped. Furthermore, Glaive Tempest, which has been buffed now to have a slightly longer cooldown but deal more damage and deal that damage to more targets at 8, is against good old Chaos Theory, which is just a really boring Chaos Strike increase, but hey, it's here. Finally, you guys might notice that there is a talent node against Momentum. Now, first off, I do want to say that both of these talents have been changed pretty heavily to the fact where it's a lot less important for you to Fel Rush now. So if you hated Momentum before or hated the movement, I do encourage you to try it out, as both options here are really close to each other. We actually will end up playing both depending on our build, and they both require you to Fel Rush much less than before. But Momentum has been changed where each one now gives you 6 seconds and stacks up to 30 from 10, which means you have 18 seconds alone off of your opener rather than 10 seconds from before, which is a pretty big difference. On the other hand, we have Inertia, which is a return to form for older Momentum for anyone who used to like that, where it's a lot less Fel Rushing, a lot lower uptime of a buff, but a much stronger buff. You can see here, whenever you're empowered by Unbound Chaos, your Fel Rush gives you 18% damage done for 5 seconds. Now this does stack up to 2 times. You're probably wondering, how do we use 2 Fel Rushes in a row with Unbound Chaos? And that is another new talent, which we'll skip down to, which is a Fire Inside. This talent works really well with Unbound Chaos and Inertia, as well as all of the Immolation Aura things on the right side, basically giving you an additional charge Immolation Aura and the chance to refund it whenever you use it, as well as giving you the chance to have multiple proc and be active at the same time. This is a great talent for people trying to use all these Rage Fire, Immolation Aura talents, as well as Inertia, and it just kind of deals a lot of damage. Finally, for new talents, we come down to the right side of the tree here. Now, nothing else has really changed out of these talents here. Cycle of Hatred now works with Throw Glaive if you have Furious Throws talented, which is pretty good for making a mid-right build exist. And finally, Shatter Destiny was nerfed a little bit to give you 0.1 seconds per 10 Fury spent, up from 8. Top of that, Demonic was also nerfed down to 5 seconds, so Cycle of Hatred's uptime is going to be a lot less, which will be great for a lot of people. But the two last new talents are going to be Chaotic Disposition, which is a very strong passive scaling off of your mastery, which each time you deal chaos damage, there's a 7.77% chance to duplicate 17% of that damage up to 7 total times. You're probably wondering what that means, and that's fair. Basically, every time you deal chaos damage, there are 7 rolls of a 13-sided die, which is a 7.77% chance. It's like a 12.8 something sided die, but 13 works. Anyways, every time you deal chaos damage, you roll 7 13-sided die, and every time you get a 13 on those dice, you duplicate 17% of that chaos damage tick. So that's kind of how that works. The point differential just increases how many times you're rolling the dice and using that 7.77% chance. This is a new talent that works very well with our AoE stuff. And the final new talent is going to be Fel Barrage. The Fel Barrage now works as a 1.5 minute cooldown, similar to Breath of Sindragosa actually. Wherever you use it, you unleash a torrent of Fel energy, rapidly consuming Fury to inflict 6,000 chaos damage to all enemies within 12 yards, lasting 8 seconds or until your Fury is depleted. It deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. So effectively what this does is it drains your Fury every tick, up to a maximum of 8 seconds or until your Fury bar is gone, and pulses this chaos damage to all enemies around you. This works very well as a burst AoE tool, and it's pretty fun to use as well in packs. Come in here and just kind of blast it on this pack here. We can see that I'm just kind of throwing a bunch of chaos bolts at everybody around me. Pretty fun, pretty stellar stuff. It can do some good damage as well, just kind of sitting here and just not really doing anything with it. So pretty fun, pretty interesting. We'll see where it ends up. Those are probably going to be the biggest changes to Havoc Demon Hunter in terms of the tree, but there are a few things that aren't on the tree that I do want to mention as well. Because the tree's rework, we have gotten some things baseline. The biggest two of those are going to be Fel Eruption, which is our single target stun. We just get this baseline now, which is really, really crazy. We have access to the 30-second cooldown single target stun again, which is great, really helping our AoE toolkit. Sorry, our Mythic Plus toolkit. On top of that, Chaos Nova now has a shorter cooldown baseline. It doesn't need that extra point to it, so that is also a big help. The other one is going to be Demonic Appetite, which is the old talent where whenever you consumed a soul, you got some Fury, and Chaos Strike had a chance to spawn them. Now, this does give you less Fury, but Chaos Strike giving, it just being baseline is going to be a lot of free Fury overall. Now, you're probably wondering, that's all well and good, but how does the spec actually play? And I will say, it is incredibly fun. New Havoc is basically all the good parts of Havoc Demon Hunter from before, plus. So a lot of the frustrations have been removed or at least reworked to be much more manageable. So on the screen before you here is one of the single target builds. It's very similar to the AoE build, just dropping this point for this, but this build is going to be with Inertia. Now there is another build that I'll show as well with Momentum, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of an idea of how the spec plays. Now if you're one of the camp who doesn't like movement for damage for some reason, I do recommend and ask that you do try out the new builds just to see if maybe they're made a bit better for you. However, at the end of the day, I do understand that movement and momentum and inertia, they're not for everybody, and everybody still is allowed to enjoy Havoc Demon Hunter. If you're one of those people, there is a viable no mover build for single target. Now this build is between 1.5 to 2% behind the other two builds in single target, but it is still viable, especially because it's a lot easier to perform with, and it's still very much Havoc Demon Hunter. The rotation here is very simple. It's very similar to the cycle build I'll be showing, so I'm not going to cover it here, but sometime after the launch of the new season, probably within the first week or two, I will have a full no mover guide video out for both single target and raid for you guys to check out. So if you're a new mover guy, I do recommend subscribing to the channel. Actually, everybody subscribe to the channel. I'll have a lot of Demon Hunter content, probably branch out a little bit as well, coming in the future. Anyways, let's get back to the rotation for the Glaive single target build here. So, like as I was saying, this is very much Havoc Plus. What I mean by that is that you are doing all of the fun things from before, but not doing a lot of the frustrations. For me, a lot of the issue that I had before was a lot of the toxic uptime caused by Cycle and Shattered Destiny, and a lot of the just Fel Rush stuff where we had to Fel Rush basically on cooldown because of Isolated Prey. Now, while there is still uptime issues because of Cycle and Shattered Destiny, some changes to the rotation, nerfs to those things, as well as natural downtime does make them less toxic than before, but of course they still exist. So this build is the build I hope we end up playing because it has less downtime issues, and let's get into it. So you pretty much start out as you normally would with the Hunt, I-Beam, and then you start with the cool new stuff with Unbound Chaos. You're going to Fel Rush through Essence Break, Death Sweep, Backflip, Meta, okay, it didn't go off, Death Sweep, I-Beam, and then you just kind of use your Chaos Strikes down here. And then before your next Death Sweep comes up, you're going to Fel Rush again. So the opener there was a little bit scuffed. I definitely wasn't doing it 100% properly. But you see right away, I'm Fel Rushing a lot less. The basic idea here with Fel Rush now is you want to just use it for the Hunt or Death Sweep, something like that, and just make sure you're saving a charge for your Unbound, for your Essence Break window. Otherwise, you're kind of just sitting here using your generators whenever they come up, using your Immolation auras on very strong buttons like the Hunt, like I-Beam, like Death Sweep, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, I think it works out pretty well and is pretty fun. Now, there are issues a little bit with Fury if you're used to some of the other incarnations of Havoc Demon Hunter, where we have a lot more Fury. We don't have anywhere near as much Fury as before, but I do think that's a good thing. So you can see here, really not Fel Rushing that much. So again, if you're somebody who doesn't like Fel Rushing and all that stuff, it's definitely reasonable for you to try out this new build. This build is going to be very similar to the current Havoc Demon Hunter build, except you are going to just be Fel Rushing a lot less, and you're using a lot of your other generators. So this is Cycle, of course, everybody knows and loves Cycle or hates Cycle. I personally, not the biggest fan of it, but you know, it's not that bad at the end of the day. So this is going to be pretty similar. Immolation Aura, Sigil Flame, Fel Rush, Hunt, I-Beam, Annihilation, Backflip, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Meta, Death Sweep, Annihilation, I-Beam. And from here, you see, I still have a lot of momentum uptime left. Now, you are still going to Fel Rush from time to time just to keep that buff up and fill globals. Fel Rush right now actually does a lot more damage than a lot of your other options. So you probably just want to use it on cooldown anyways. Well, not really on cooldown, but to fill gaps in your rotation anyways because of how much damage it does and the buff to momentum it gives. We can see here that I'm getting enough buff uptime with really not Fel Rushing that much. I'm having charges here. I don't have the Evoker buff, obviously, which does mean, you know, my uptime is gonna be less than normal, but my uptime is still very respectable. My Hunt and Essence Break are coming back up here, which means I'm gonna have even more uptime. See here, just pumping out uptime here on momentum. So, you know, it's still going to be more Fel Rushing than the other build, but it's a lot more spread out and it's a lot less prominent, like a lot less rotationally disruptive. Like, I don't need to do this anywhere near as much as you do on live. Obviously, you're doing it still because it's, you know, good to do so, and you at the end of the day want to Fel Rush with this build, but I still have a lot of Fel Rush charges. This is even without the Evoker buff, and I don't really feel like I need to be using them that much. So all in all, I think it's a big win in my book. Rotation is much improved. You're using momentum still, yeah, which still does mean you're Fel Rushing a lot, especially with the buff to Fel Rush. They buffed it by 60% baseline now to kind of incorporate the Unbound Chaos nerf, but a lot less of a kind of disruption there from Fel Rushing, a lot less of a disruption from Serrated Glaving. Still have some uptime stuff because of Cycle and Shattered Destiny, but because we have natural downtime in our rotation, like I showed, a lot of that downtime can be eaten away into when you're off boss. So a lot better, lots of improved fixes to problems, and realistically, I think I will still be happy playing this build. I'd rather play the other build, and I probably will end up playing the other build because they're very close. This build and the other one are less than 1% difference, so big ups there. But overall, really happy with those two builds, at least for single target. AoE, very similar to the other one, not going to show it, but really cool stuff overall. That kind of brings us to my verdict for Havoc Demon Hunter. Now, I'm not really going to talk about tuning, because obviously right now, Havoc and Vengeance, actually, both Demon Hunter specs are incredibly powerful and probably really good. But that can change with tuning, of course. But in terms of everything else, I do think that Havoc is a lot tankier than before. We have a lot more defensive options. We have a lot more utility. We have the Fel Eruption stuff. It's a lot easier to take all of our stuns and things. We're able to take our immunity, which, you know, just helps a ton. Darkness is even better in Mythic Plus. It's like about the same in Raid. 5% is not a big deal, but 30% in Mythic Plus is a pretty sizable difference. And it's just a lot more fun, I think. It's just a lot more enjoyable. Me personally, playing live Demon Hunter 10.1 versus like 10.2 PTR is night and day. Makes me hate going on live right now just because of I know in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, Havoc Demon Hunter is going to be just in a much better place, at least from the play aspect of things. Obviously the tuning is good too, but you know, I think a lot of the changes that came through were very, very positive changes. Are there still some issues? Yeah, obviously. I'm not going to talk about them here. Don't want to spoil a good thing, but you know, Havoc Demon Hunter is my favorite class, my favorite spec. It's incredibly fun to play. It's very, very unique, and those are staying, but they're being improved in a way where it's not as frustrating as before. And if you're somebody who doesn't like momentum, doesn't like movement, there are options for you out there. At least in raid, they're very, very close. 2% is really, really manageable. It's very, very narrow. I think this tier it was like 5%, and you still see people topping with no mover builds, especially on like Magma Racks or something. So end of the day, I think the rework, quote unquote, did a lot to make Havoc Demon Hunter feel a lot better. It's just really, really fun now. Its utility, survivability is really, really good and really, really strong. And right now, its damage is really good. Now, aside from its damage, I think its profile is strong as well. There's going to be a lot of cleave in this upcoming raid, which Havoc should excel at. They're just kind of strong in Mythic Plus as well, just based on that damage profile. Again, they can be nerfed down, they can be tuned, whatever. But I do think their damage profile is very good for just the content that's going to be coming up in 10.2. So really tanky, really utility-wise and damage-wise, seems strong. Again, can be tuned, but the playstyle is so much better, so much more enjoyable than before, and I'm really liking it. But anyways, what are your thoughts? I want to know. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about Havoc right now in 10.2. What are your frustrations from 10.1? What are you excited to see changing? Comment if you're a new Havoc Demon Hunter re-rolling for the first time or whatever. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. I think you should play it. Obviously, it's going to be very fun. I'm going to make a ton of content for it, and you playing it keeps me around. So obviously, I'm going to say yes, play it, alt it, main it, love it, hate it, whatever. But I think it's going to be a much better than where it is now. It's going to be a breath of fresh air, and I am so excited for 10.2. That's going to be it for the video today. Make sure you like it, comment, subscribe, all the cool stuff. If you have any questions, join my Discord down below or the Havoc Discord. I hang out in both. Catch me on Twitch as well, linked in the description. I stream 1 to 3 times a week right now, but we'll be streaming a lot more once 10.2 drops. And of course, I think my Twitter's down there too. Follow me there. But yeah, so subscribe, like the video, comment, become a channel member if you want. Link in the description, help support me. And thank you guys for watching. You guys are great, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. A big thank you to all my channel members. Thank you to Andrew Keenel, Payne, Latand, Period, Brad Wisniak, Zuligan, Oxclamation, It's Bulk, and Howley. Thank you all of those people. You guys are great and appreciate the support you're giving me. If you want to support the channel and get a few cool perks in the meantime, click the link in the description. Brings you to a place where you can learn more about becoming a channel member. Thank you all so much. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.